My neighbor's teen son kept trespassing into my yard. When I spoke to his mother, she smirked. Boys need room to grow. Days later, I found my shed burned to ashes. She claimed I set it myself for attention. But the fire marshal pulled me aside and said, "What we found in the debris doesn't match your story." Then he handed me I'm 58. Widowed. Been living in Greenfield, Indiana all my life. After my wife passed, I stayed in our house. It was too full of memories to leave. I kept to myself, spent most of my time in the yard, working on my garden or fixing things in the shed. It was quiet, and that was all I needed. Then Vicky Carson moved in next door. She came with her teenage son, Tyler. I heard she was from Indianapolis. She didn't talk much to the neighbors, but she was loud in other ways. Music blasting at all hours, headlights shining into my windows late at night, and arguments with her kid that echoed down the street. Tyler was the type of boy you could tell was going to be trouble just by looking at him. Always angry, always stomping around. He had this smug look, like he thought he was smarter than everyone else. He had no respect for anyone or anything. Especially not for me or my yard. The first time I noticed him in my yard, he was standing near my shed, looking around like he was casing the place. I walked out the back door and called out to him. "Hey! What are you doing?" He took a step back, stared at me, then said, "Nothing," and walked off without another word. I didn't want to escalate, so I let it go. But it kept happening. A few days later, I found deep footprints in the garden I just finished planting. Tomato plants crushed. Fence latch open. I started locking the gate every night. One morning I caught him throwing rocks at my shed. I yelled and he ran off laughing. That's when I decided to talk to his mother. I knocked on their front door around 5 p.m. She opened it with a wine glass in her hand and didn't even try to hide the fact that she'd been drinking. She looked me up and down like I was wasting her time. "Your son keeps trespassing into my yard," I told her. "He's causing damage. I don't want any trouble, but it needs to stop." She smiled, smirked, like I told her a joke. "Boys need room to grow," she said. "Let him breathe a little. He's not hurting anything." "He is. He broke my plants. He throws rocks at my shed." "Well, maybe you shouldn't leave tempting stuff lying around." Then she closed the door in my face. I stood there for a full minute before walking back home. I knew right then she wasn't going to do anything. If anything, she encouraged it. I installed a trail cam in my backyard the next day, facing the shed. I didn't say anything to them. Just waited. 3 days later, I came home from running errands. I opened the front door and something smelled off. I ran through the house to the backyard. And my shed was on fire. I could feel the heat from the porch. I ran out with a hose, but it was no use. The fire had already taken everything. My tools, my wife's flower boxes, the rocking chair we used to sit in together, it was all gone. The fire trucks came fast, but not fast enough. Neighbors stood on their lawns, watching. I looked over and saw Vicky on her porch, watching too, wine glass in hand, calm as can be. She didn't say a word. Just watched. The next morning, the fire marshal came by. His name was Dale. I knew him from town. He walked through the wreckage for a long time. Then he came to my front porch and asked if I had a minute. "We're still figuring out the cause," he said. "But I want to show you something." He handed me a half-burned notebook. I recognized it right away. It was from one of the old bins I kept under the workbench. But when I opened it, I realized it wasn't mine. The handwriting was messy. Big blocky letters, like a kid trying to write fast. The first entry said, "I think he's hiding something in there." I flipped the page. The entries kept going. Every one of them mentioned me, the shed, the yard. "He has tools. Expensive ones. I saw him cleaning them. He keeps locking the gate. I can't get in unless I go through the side. He looked at me today. He knows. I think he's on to me. My hands started shaking. I turned to the last entry. If I light it up, maybe he'll show me what he's hiding. I looked up at Dale. Tyler, I said. It's his handwriting, isn't it? Dale nodded slowly. We're not confirming anything officially. But yeah, looks like it. She's going to say I planted it, I said. She already did, he replied. She came by this morning and told us you probably set the fire yourself for attention. She said you're lonely and unstable. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about a kid with too much time on his hands. This was about a mother who didn't care what damage her son did. Or maybe even worse, one who liked it. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd roll over and take it. But I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. The day after Dale gave me the notebook, I went through every page again. I couldn't sleep. The way Tyler wrote about me, about the shed, it was like he was obsessed. And his mom. She was already twisting it, saying I made the whole thing up. I decided to check the trail cam I had set up. I hadn't thought about it since the fire. The camera was a few feet from the shed, mounted high on the fence. The lens was blackened with soot, but the SD card looked fine. I plugged it into my laptop. And there he was. 2 nights before the fire, around 1:30 a.m., Tyler climbed over my back fence. He walked straight to the shed, looked around like he was making sure no one was watching, then tried the door. It was locked. Next frame, he picked up a rock. Threw it at the lock. Didn't break it. Then he just stood there for almost 10 minutes, staring at the shed. Like he was talking to himself. I skipped forward. The night of the fire, at 2:08 a.m., he came back. This time, he had something in his hand. A can. He poured it along the side of the shed, then pulled out a lighter. I could see the spark flash in the dark. Flames shot up fast. He stood there and watched it burn for a full minute before jumping the fence and running back home. I sat there staring at the screen. It was all there. Video proof. Him with the gas can. Him lighting it. Him watching it burn. I made 2 backup copies. I took the footage straight to Dale at the fire station. He watched it all without saying a word. When it ended, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. Okay, he said. Now we've got something real. He promised to take it to the sheriff. By the time I got back home, things had changed next door. Vicky's car was gone. I walked into my backyard, and there was trash all over the fence line. Empty soda cans, cigarette butts, a pair of shoes, thrown into my yard like garbage. One of my garden gnomes was shattered. A baseball bat lay on the ground. Tyler had been back. Probably that same afternoon. I checked my cameras again. This time I had full footage of him climbing the fence at noon, smashing the gnome, throwing crap into my yard, then flipping off the camera before leaving. This wasn't a kid who made a mistake. This was personal now. That night, I called an old friend, Danny. We went to school together, and he worked private security out in Muncie. I told him everything. He agreed to come by and help me install more cameras, motion sensors, and a hidden one aimed right at their back door. This kid wants a war, Danny said. You give him one. Just be smarter about it. Within 2 days I had full coverage of my property, live feeds, and a motion alert that pinged my phone. Then I waited. 3 days later, it pinged at 2:43 a.m. I watched live on my phone as Tyler snuck out his back door, barefoot, hoodie on, and walked toward my yard with something shiny in his hand. I stayed quiet. I watched. When he reached the fence, I flicked on the floodlights. He froze. Then I stepped out of my back door, holding my phone, recording everything. You better turn around, kid, I said loud and clear. You're being recorded. Every second. You're done. He panicked. Dropped whatever was in his hand and bolted. I walked to the fence and saw what he dropped. It was a pocket knife. Next morning, I sent the video to Dale. By that afternoon, 2 sheriff's deputies showed up at the Carsons' house. They arrested Tyler. I stood in my front yard and watched as they led him out in cuffs, Vicky screaming at them, calling it a setup, yelling that I was a creep who was obsessed with her family. But the look on her face when they pulled the journal from the cruiser, pure panic. She knew. It was over. Or so I thought. What happened next took things even deeper. Darker. Because the sheriff called me 2 days later. "There's more to this," he said. "A lot more. And you're not going to like it." The sheriff met me at the station in a small back office. No coffee. No small talk. He just shut the door, locked it, and dropped a manila folder on the table between us. "We didn't find that journal by accident," he said. I blinked. "What do you mean?" He pulled out a few black and white photocopies. Pages from the journal. But these weren't the same ones Dale had shown me. These were earlier entries. Pages I'd never seen. "Where did you get these?" The kid had a second notebook. He hid it under the floorboards in his closet. His mom probably didn't know about this one. "We think he kept the first one in your shed because he thought you wouldn't find it there." He slid the copies toward me. "He doesn't talk to anyone. Not even family. I bet no one would notice if something happened to him. I know where he keeps his keys. I could go in and take what I need. He has cameras now. But I've seen him working outside. His back is always turned at the same time each day." Each sentence made my skin crawl. He'd been watching me for weeks, maybe longer. Planning things. Thinking about ways to get in, maybe even do worse. "I think this kid had more in mind than just breaking stuff," the sheriff said. I could barely speak. "So, what now? You gonna charge him with more?" "That's part of it," he said. "But there's more you need to know about the mom." He opened another file. This one had printed emails. Photos. Police reports from Indianapolis. Vicky Carson isn't who she says she is. That's not even her real last name. Turns out, her name was Victoria Lane. She changed it after a string of CPS investigations back in Marion County. Tyler had been kicked out of 2 schools, one for bringing a knife to class, the other for attacking a teacher. Both reports were sealed because he was a minor. "Why'd they move here?" I asked. "Last incident got too close to criminal charges." She ran. "Bought the house here under a shell LLC. No real job, no record here, nothing that raised flags. Until now." I sat there stunned. I'd been living next to a time bomb. The sheriff leaned forward. "I'm gonna be honest. We think she's been covering for him for a long time. We can't prove it yet, but something's not right. Some of the things he wrote in that second notebook, they weren't just about you." He handed me one last page. This one made my blood run cold. "Mom says if I get caught, she'll fix it. She always does. She says he deserves it. Says he's trying to ruin our life like Dad did." I looked up. "He thinks I'm his dad?" The sheriff shook his head. "No. We think she told him someone else hurt her. Maybe used you as a target because you were the closest threat. We've seen it before. People like her, they twist things." Everything made more sense now. The smirking. The way she acted like I was the problem. The lies. The fake charm. She wasn't just lazy. She was dangerous. That night, I sat on my porch with a cold drink in one hand and a loaded pistol in the other. Not because I wanted to use it, but because for the first time, I truly didn't feel safe in my own home. Then the phone rang again. It was Dale. "We just got a call from her house. She's gone." I stood up. "What do you mean, gone?" "Packed up what she could, bailed. Left the kid in juvenile holding and ran. Her phone's off. No sign of her. She left her son behind. Ran like a coward." And that's when I realized, she thought it was over. She thought she'd skip town and vanish again like she did in Indy. But she didn't know me. Not really. She burned down my shed. She destroyed what little peace I had left. And now, I was going to find her. I wasn't done yet. She was gone. Victoria Lane, or Vicky Carson, whatever name she was hiding behind, packed up the charger and skipped town like a ghost. The house sat dark and empty. Her trash was still on the lawn, porch light still on, dishes left in the sink. But she was gone. I thought about letting it go. I thought maybe justice had run its course. Tyler was locked up in juvenile detention, likely for a while. She had no job, no family here, and nowhere to run but some distant version of her old life. But I couldn't stop thinking about the journal. About the things her son wrote. About what he might have done, if the fire hadn't happened first. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about what she bred, what she created. She had built a weapon in that boy, then aimed him at the nearest quiet neighbor and said, "Go." And then she tried to make me the villain. No. She didn't get to vanish. So I started digging. I had friends. Danny helped me trace the LLC that bought the house. Turns out it was tied to a P.O. box in Fort Wayne. I drove out there and staked it out. Third day I saw her. Same red Charger. She was wearing sunglasses, hoodie pulled low. Parked at the corner, walked fast like she didn't want to be seen. But it was her. I snapped a photo. That was all I needed. Back in Greenfield, I filed a civil suit for property destruction. The burned shed, the ruined garden, the emotional distress. I listed both her legal name and her alias. The sheriff confirmed her real identity in a sworn statement. The civil case meant she couldn't hide anymore. Not without consequences. I took it one step further. I posted the trail cam footage online. The one of Tyler lighting the fire. The one of him smashing my yard. I uploaded it to a Facebook group for local neighborhoods titled, "This is why we can't have nice things." The post blew up. People from her old town started messaging me. Some recognized her. One woman sent me scanned copies of restraining orders. Another claimed she used to babysit Tyler, said he'd killed her cat and laughed about it. Said CPS ignored her report. A week later, someone posted her location. She was spotted working under a fake name at a motel off Route 30. She was cleaning rooms, paying cash, staying quiet. I sent it to the sheriff. They issued a warrant. When they picked her up, she didn't go quiet this time. She kicked, screamed, called the deputies pigs. Claimed it was all a setup by some obsessed old man. They brought her in on identity fraud, obstruction of justice, and failure to appear for a court summons from Marion County tied to the CPS cases she ran from. The press got involved. Small town, big scandal. She was on the local news. Fugitive mother and teen son linked to arson, abuse, and fraud. Tyler saw the news from lockup. According to Dale, that's when he broke. Confessed to everything. Said she made him do it. Said she told him I was going to hurt them, that I was watching them, that I hated them because they weren't from here. Said she fed him lies for months until he thought burning the shed was some kind of defense. He told the cops about the knives, the gasoline, the plans to break in while I was asleep. He said I was lucky the fire happened first. They found drawings in his room. Blueprints of my house. Timetables. Safe spots, in my yard where he could hide. I read the full report. Then I threw up. In the end, Tyler was remanded to a juvenile psychiatric facility, court-ordered until he turns 21. Not jail. But not freedom either. Vicky got time. 3 years for fraud. Another 5 for child endangerment. More charges still pending from Indy. She won't see daylight for a while. And me? I rebuilt the shed. Took months. But I did it by hand. My neighbor Rick helped, and Danny came by on weekends. We built it stronger than before. Bigger. I planted new tomatoes, new flower beds. Ordered new garden gnomes and placed one right at the fence line. This time, I faced him toward their old house. Let him watch. I still check the cameras at night. Still keep my phone next to the bed. Some damage doesn't go away. But here's the part they don't tell you: revenge doesn't always look like shouting or fists. Sometimes it's a courtroom. Sometimes it's a quiet moment when you stand on your porch, see the sun rising over your yard, and know no one can take that peace from you again. Sometimes revenge is just surviving what they meant to destroy, and making sure they remember your name.